And welcome back into the Sports Source. Skeeter, G3, Aqua Patio, Sweetwater, Bullet, Apex, Polar Craft, Hurricane, Suncatcher, and now Stingray boats. We say there is no better place to buy a boat than Madisonville Marine because there is no better place to buy a boat than Madisonville Marine. That selection and the prices they can do for you, unmatched in all of East Tennessee. What I ran through, that's not even their entire inventory. Get down there and see for yourself, or go to madmarine.com and check it out. There's no better place to buy a boat. All right, I want to welcome in the next two panelists today. You've already seen one of these guys. He didn't do enough DJing yesterday at Neyland Stadium, so we got you coming in here and doing the DJ for the show. Sterling Hinton, thank you very much.
Appreciate your job, Pete.
And I'm surprised you have any voice at all like yesterday. And next to you, former Vol, Shazan Bradley, back with us. Shazan, thanks for being here, man.
Thanks for being able me to be here, sir.
Very good. Wanted to ask you guys, some of the Vols that have made splashy entrances so far. It doesn't have to be somebody new, but certainly you think of Josh Malone, you think of Jalen Hurd. This point in spring, what are some names that have caught your ear, caught your eye? Who do you think deserves a bouquet or two? I'll start this way and we'll work our way around.
You going to go with the obvious?
Go for it.
Josh Malone. He was terrific yesterday, and he was getting separation. He was catching the ball. He made one-handed catch. He looked very smooth out there. He broke tackles, although as Bob pointed out, Tennessee's tackling wasn't very good, but I think he really looked good yesterday, and he looked like the five-star receiver that can step in next year and help you.
Okay.
How about Kyler Curbison? Tennessee's offensive line's been getting thrown under the bus by everybody, including me. And Kyler Curbison, from what everybody said, had a really, really good spring. I don't think a lot of people expected that he might be the leader of that bunch coming out of the spring. So I think Kyler Curbison deserves the bouquet.
Okay. We got two over there. What do you two go with? Who stood out to you this spring?
I'm throwing out two bouquets.
Okay.
Cam Sutton and Pearson, receiver.
Von Pearson?
Let me tell you, that guy's a player. He is, I think he said Wilson is a little bit taller.
Wow.
He can play.
He didn't have the big numbers yesterday because other guys were pulling down bigger numbers.
Absolutely.
But when you think about Malone and Pearson both out there, you toss in Marquez North. I'm going to ask you a little later about the receiving core overall as a group. Shazan, who stood out to you?
Jalen Reeves, he played really well yesterday. Good feet, good eyes. Up front on the defensive line, we're just not exploding. They got to be more aggressive. Not using their hands, not using their feet at the same time, and not getting off blocks. And you're not going to be able to make great tackles if you're not doing that.
Do you think the defensive line is a bigger issue right now than the offensive line? That's our next question.
Most definitely. On defense up front, what I saw yesterday, we're in major league trouble.
Wow, that's not a good sign. Let me put up some stats here about the running backs yesterday. And this is the rush game, the offensive line. Hurd had a nice Justice Pickett, who I think a lot of people have they'd forgotten about this guy, the transfer from Maryland who came in last year, 5 yards a carry. Marlon Lane with a touchdown. Devin Young got some carries. They use him in a lot of different ways. You guys agree with that? Defensive line a bigger concern than offensive line? Obviously, Shazan played on that defensive line, so he's going to be a little more critical in that area.
Well,
thoughts?
If you carry it through that the skill players look to be as good as they are, then you can get by with a lesser offensive line. I know there's some things been thrown out about that. So if you've got the skill players are that good that they can make up for those deficiencies, I don't know if the defense has the players to make up for a deficiency in the offensive line because you've got situations everywhere.
That's where I was debating a little bit too. I do like Tennessee's two of their linebackers. And then Shazan pointed out another one, Jalen Reeves-Maben. I think their linebacking core is going to be pretty good, but their performance or effectiveness can be impacted if the defensive line isn't holding up its end. I do like Corey Vereen. I do like Jordan Williams. So you probably have two guys on the defensive line that are more proven than anybody on the offensive line. But to Bob's point, I think the skilled people on offense can help make up for the offensive line. So I'm going to go defensive line because the tackle position is not where you want it at this level.
And the problem is in the SEC, you're going to need more than four guys on your defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
You need
That's
depth,
right.
and right now it's not just 2 out of 4, it's 2 out of 7 or 8 that you're going to need. So a lot of concerns there. Let's take a look at the quarterbacks. I've got some quarterback numbers from yesterday. There you go. We listed them by yards. Josh Dobbs with 199, 3 touchdown passes, had the 59 rushing yards. Justin Worley, 55 rushing yards. You see the yards passing that he had. Ferguson didn't have the best of days, but he was also early on against the first-team defense when it was looking pretty decent. And then Nathan Peterman, 8 of 11. He got a touchdown pass, too. All right, Bob said we couldn't ask this question, so I'm going to ask this question of Bob. At this point, who's your starter for Utah State? If you had to name one.
If I had to name one, And just based on what happened yesterday, I would go with Dobbs because he played the end of the season. He looked better yesterday in game-type situations, but I wouldn't feel comfortable going with Dobbs because everybody's talked up Worley and Ferguson the entire spring. But, the proof is in. This is the biggest platform you've had since last season's your orange and white game, and he's the one that stepped up and played the best.
I'd go Worley because of body of work. Kind of like we were talking about Pearson earlier. He didn't do much in the spring game, but his body work in the spring. And I think while Dobbs had a very good spring game, I think Worley has been the most consistent performer. I'd go with Worley.
Okay. Guys, where do you go?
I'm going to go with the quarterback route. I'm going to say that position is going to have a lot more production out of it this year.
You're dancing around the
no,
question.
I'm not
Who do you start?
I'm not dancing. I'm just because I don't make that decision. And I was impressed with all. You look at those numbers. You look at those numbers, though. Those numbers are all impressive with all four of them.
Right.
Besides the one interception, they're all impressive. So the coaches got to earn their money on this one. And I'm just happy to know that whoever's back there at quarterback for Tennessee this year will have a lot more production than the guy that was back there last year.
But what if it's the same guy that was back there last
And
year?
he's going to be better.
I think there's a case that could be made for that. I don't know. Again, I don't think anybody's going to be celebrating if Worley. No offense to Worley, but it appears he has a ceiling. That does not mean, however, that we've seen that ceiling. It may be that he does improve from year one to year two. Shazan, who would you go with?
I'd go with Dobbs, but I'd be more comfortable with Worley.
You'd go with Dobbs.
I have more confidence in Worley.
Yeah, okay.
He's just seen a little bit more, and he understands it, to me, a little bit more, and he's a little more patient. I think he'll make a better decision in a big game situation than what Dobbs would at this moment.
I see that too. And if you're going to go with in the Utah State game, I think the conservative choice is Worley. I think that's the safe choice. I think Dobbs may give you more upside because remember he was not all that bad last year when they were going through their struggles. He came in against an Alabama team that was top 5, played Auburn and Missouri, both top 5. He had a lot of drop passes. If you remember, he had a couple of drop passes. Marquez North lost one in the lights, lost one in the moon against Missouri. He didn't get a lot of help, and his receiving core was banged up. I think that Worley would be your safe choice. I think Dobbs may be the more upside choice, but that's riding off Riley Ferguson based on one game.
Exactly, and all during the spring, everybody kept talking about Riley Ferguson. Right. So, I mean, it looks like it's a 3-man race through all this.
All right. When we come back, we welcome in a new guest to our show as we take a brief time out from talking about the orange and white game and talk a little bit about a legend at Tennessee, Bobby Denton, and what he meant to fans, what he meant to the program. We'll discuss that in the next segment. Come on back on the Sports Source.